When I opened our first juice bar and we did $30,000 in sales our second month open, helping us to get profitable after making a $300,000 investment, I had this huge aha moment. See, here's the thing. Most of us think that in order to become a full-time entrepreneur or be successful in business, that we have to do more. And actually, the secret and what I found is actually doing less. It's more so about what you give up than what you do. So I'd make a bet to say that in order for you to finally have the success you're looking for as a full-time entrepreneur, then you need to stop doing some things. And so in this video, I'm gonna share with you the 5 things that I stopped doing and that I gave up in order to finally make the transition to becoming a full-time thriving entrepreneur. And it's not the things that you hear and read in all these books. It's gonna be some things that are a little bit surprising to you. So let's jump in. All right, so if you're new here, welcome. My name is Tariq Johnson. I built a multi-million-dollar franchise business, owning multiple franchise locations. I also grew an online business to over 6 figures in less than 6 months. And real quick, before we jump in, you can go grab my 7-step blueprint to business profits in 60 days for free. It's a 28-page ebook. It's my gift to you. There will be a link in the description below. So make sure to go grab it and let's jump in. Number 1 is I gave up confusion and doubt. So maybe you can relate to this. I spent so much time over the years thinking, well, what business should I do? Do I really want to do that? Does that make sense? And being in this pattern of just confusion and never really actually making a decision moving forward on something. Or I'd start a business and then as I'm starting the business the whole time, I feel confused about what step to take next. It was just, I didn't have a clear roadmap. And so I might have time to work on my business, but I was stuck in this pattern of confusion. So I'm thinking, all right, in order to grow my business, well, what do I do next? And then I would start researching, reading things online or books. And then I'm like, well, should I do this step first or should I do this step? Right? So maybe you can relate to this where you get stuck in this pattern of confusion and doubt. So I remember when I had started a clothing line, it was called Live With Swag, and I was just constantly confused. I didn't have a clear strategy. I didn't know exactly what to do. And it was just what do I do next? And so I was just all over the place. And it created all this confusion and doubt and uncertainty for me. And that's one of the beauties about owning a franchise business. And when we opened up our first franchise location, we were buying a system. So because of that, once we signed on the dotted line with the franchise company, it was okay, here's a call. Here are all of your next steps. This is what you have to accomplish. You have to get, your entity, the permitting, the architectural plans. You got to sign a lease. And it was these are the most important items. And it was all right, well, let's do it. And then I had guidance and support on how to figure those things out. When I did get confused, I had a support system of people that I could go ask that had done it many, many times over. Or if I was confused, it was only in one particular step that I had to solve. In my mind, I wasn't trying to solve 4 or 5 different problems at once. And so that made it very helpful. But here's the thing, when your mind is swirling with confusion and doubt and fear and uncertainty, it winds up leading to the next thing, which is number 2, and that's procrastination. And the reality is right now, there's something that you know you should or need to be doing in order to make your goal of being a full-time entrepreneur happen, and you're not doing it. Here's the thing about procrastination. Procrastination basically is just the avoidance of pain. Once you understand what procrastination is, you can actually manipulate your mind. You can specifically get yourself to take action because you then use leverage because you understand procrastination. So now I'm at the point in my life where I can start to really do this in order to eliminate procrastination out of my life. And so it's less about, I've got to do this, and this, as opposed to just oh, let me just let go of procrastinating. And maybe you're like, dude, what the hell is the difference? It's the same thing. It's not. It's a very small mindset shift, but how much easier it makes it for you to actually then move forward on your goals is very different. So here's the thing about procrastination. When we're procrastinating, we only make decisions for two reasons. I got this from Tony Robbins. One, to either avoid pain, or two, to gain pleasure. Which one do you think is more powerful in your life, right? Yes, to avoid pain. So our desire to avoid pain is much stronger than our desire to gain pleasure. So how will this help you? So right now, if you're procrastinating making a decision on something, let's say you're procrastinating on selecting and choosing a business, right? You're like, I want to quit my job, but I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I feel confused. You're associating pain, right? So you're associating pain to making a decision, because the likelihood is, well, if you make that decision, what if I lose money? What if it doesn't work? What if I spend time and energy doing something that doesn't get me results, right? You're associating pain to making that decision, as opposed to if you started saying, if I don't make a decision, I'm going to spend the next 5 years doing work that I feel miserable in, having to ask people to take vacation, having to show up to work every day on this rigid schedule and barely see my family, right? And feel like I'm dying inside because I'm not pursuing what it is that I want to pursue with my life. When that pain becomes stronger than the pain of, well, what if I make the wrong decision? That's when you're able to use leverage and see the consequence and then get yourself to take action. So with the franchise business that I'd started, like for me, it was like, oh wow, if I don't take action on this right away, we have a weekly call scheduled with our construction person, with corporate, the franchisor, and they're expecting me to have this thing completed. So no matter what challenge I'm dealing with, no matter what fear, confusion, or doubt, or uncertainty, or knowledge gaps that I'm having to deal with, like I have to get this done so I don't hold up all the other parts of the project. So that was a perceived pain for me. So I was like, well, I guess I just have to keep moving forward and taking action. And it forced me to continue to move forward and take action and take action. All right, so I hope you guys are getting value so far. If you are, make sure to hit the like button below for the YouTube algorithm. Also drop me a comment and tell me what do you know you need to give up in order to start achieving your goals that it is that you want. I mean, we all know there's something there that we need to give up. So, and also make sure you stick to the end, because these next couple of items that I'm gonna go over have been incredibly profound and powerful. And if you utilize this in your own life, I feel 100% confident that you're gonna be able to make the shift and the transition that you want in your life. All right, so number 3 is I gave up numbing out. What do I mean by this? What do I mean by gave up numbing out? Well, overall, we have this tendency where, because of the things happening in our life, like we just want to check out. So that looks different for everyone. For me, personally, I had this habit and pattern of coming home, and every night after work, I would have a couple drinks, I would light up a cigar, and I'd sit outside, have a couple drinks, smoke a cigar, and then I'd play video games on my iPad. And this wound up being a pattern that was there for years. And something that I was constantly battling with and trying to get over. And it was really becoming a challenge for me. And it felt like the more that I tried, the harder it was to release it. And so maybe for you, that's different, right? Maybe you're watching TV every night, or you're watching Netflix, or you're just mindlessly scrolling social media or playing video games, or maybe it's eating. Like we all have our dark side, or our thing that we choose that we tend to check out and remove ourselves from the pain that we're feeling. And so for me, this was huge. I made a couple of key decisions. I decided to start training for a Spartan race. And so in order to start training for that Spartan race, It was a 6-mile race, and I hate running, absolutely hate running. So it terrified me. And this is where you can use fear to your advantage. Stick with me here. This is a very important point. Most people are trying to avoid fear in their life. You're trying to avoid the fear of failing when you can use that fear to succeed, right? So because I was training for the 6-mile race and I sucked at running, it scared the daylights out of me. And so I thought, all right, I've got to train hard. I've got to over prepare. So I decided to stop drinking. I stopped smoking cigars. And at the same time, I was in the middle of launching my online business and had this goal to free myself from my corporate job. I had hired a business coach and I set a goal of 6 months to replace my income. And within just 3 months of launching my online business, I had already built a 5-figure a month revenue stream and was able to put in my notice at work. And part of that was because I gave up the drinking and the smoking at night, and I was working on my business instead. So because I gave that up, nature abhors a vacuum, right? If you remove something, nature wants to fill that void. And so when I removed that habit, I was going to have to fill that time with something. And I made a very conscious choice to fill that time with working on my business every night, or reading something, or just not numbing out, like working on my goals. So for you right now, what is that habit and pattern that you have of numbing out, of doing something for a couple of hours every day? Maybe you're not aware of it, so you got to become aware of it first. And when you remove that, it's going to free up time and energy and mental focus and energy. So now where are you going to consciously choose to put your effort and energy into so that you make sure that it aligns with your goals? All right, so number 4 is shiny object syndrome. Man, this is key. All right, so do you know what shiny object syndrome is? It's basically when you're chasing the new and exciting thing. And so in order to succeed as a full-time entrepreneur, this was something so key that I had to give up. Because the reality is, in order to make it, in order to succeed in anything, but specifically in business and as an entrepreneur, you have to have the ability to focus and master something, right? If the analogy that I use here is when you're in traffic and you're in a lane, and if you keep bouncing around from one lane to another, you ever had the time where you're sitting in traffic and you move, that lane looks like it's moving faster, so you move over to that lane, and then you go over to that lane, and then all of a sudden, all the cars that were behind you pass you in the lane that you just left, right? And that's kind of what the shiny object syndrome is about, which is you start to create some momentum and progress because you started a business, or you're pursuing an idea, or you're looking at opening up a franchise business or starting your own business, or you have a side hustle, and then all of a sudden you see something new and exciting and you go, oh, let me do that. And then you lose all of your momentum in the other thing that you were doing. And now you're starting all over from scratch. And so what I learned, I kept doing that. I mean, I started a clothing line. I started an Amazon ebook publishing business. I had a landscaping business. I mean, I had all sorts of different businesses. The list can go on and on and on and on. And every time I was like, ooh, what can I make money with? What can get me success like that? The reality is, if that's the mindset that you're pursuing, if you're trying to get success right away, it generally is not going to work. Like, you have to learn to deal with the challenge and the adversity and just stick it through. So that's what I had to learn. Like, okay, when it gets hard, and this is the moment where I would usually quit, that was like the aha moment. Like, okay, I'm going to just not do that anymore. Like, when things get hard, what happens if I actually keep pushing through? And wow, it became a massive breakthrough in my life. And so that was another benefit of opening up the franchise business, because we had $300,000 invested in this store, in this location, and we had 15 employees and a physical business and a 10-year lease and a 10-year franchise agreement. So it wasn't like, it was like, okay, this is boring, it's hard, I give up. That wasn't really a luxury that was afforded. And so that's why for me, owning a franchise and owning multiple franchises, it forced me to give up and get over all these things that I'm talking about with you, because there was so much on the line. There was so much at stake. With other businesses that I had started where the cost of entry or the barrier to entry was so low, for my clothing line, I probably lost $1,000 or $2,000 in inventory that, I wind up not selling after having the business for a certain period of time. But okay, $1,000, $2,000, really not that big of a deal. And same thing with the landscaping business. Had bought maybe a couple $1,000s worth of inventory and made that back on different jobs. Really not that big of a deal. But when you think about the idea of putting up a couple $100,000 for a business, all of a sudden your desire to bounce from shiny object to shiny object. Well, for me personally, that just wasn't a luxury that I could afford. And then the last thing, number 5, that I chose to give up is my need for passion. There's all this advice out there about choose a business that you're passionate about. If you do what you love, you'll never work another day in your life. Quite honestly, I think that's all BS. I think it's all Here's why. I think it's so deceptive, because the reality is, in any work or any business, there are going to be aspects of the business that you don't like. It's just the reality of it. Think about, as an example, someone who's living, their dream is to be a musician, right? And they want to play all over the world and make millions of dollars. Well, what about the part where you're getting bombarded with fans? What about the part where no matter where you go, someone recognizes you and you don't have any privacy? What about the part of constantly having to travel and get tired and be on the road and be up early and late nights, or being away from your family? Do you get what I'm saying? There's always aspects of something that you do not like in your business. So for me, there's so many aspects to my business that I do love and do like. If I think about my online business right now, I love working with my clients, right? I love coaching them and helping them have breakthroughs and overcome adversity and challenges and knock through limiting beliefs and find a business so that they can finally make that transition and leap and fire their boss. But there's only about 25% of my business that I'm actually passionate about. The other 75%, I'm not passionate about. There's so many details behind the scenes in order to spend the 25% of time being passionate about that it's just like grunt work of forcing myself to have to do the work. That's just the reality to any business. And so if you're thinking and you have this false perception that you've got to be excited and passionate and show up every day doing what you love, well, then what you'll find is that you'll get a business, you'll start a business, you'll grow a business, and then you become miserable because you had this false sense of hope and this false dream of every day loving your business and showing up to work and thinking, oh, I really love what I do. And, Tony Robbins, I used to travel the country and speak for Tony Robbins. He has a quote saying that success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I think that's very powerful, because what happens if you obtain your goal, or when you obtain your goal, then you go, wow, I'm still not happy. And so for me, I've started to really understand that I don't need to feel passionate about everything that I do in my business. As an example, right now, I'm talking to a camera. I know that for you, it feels like I'm talking to you right now and it's hitting you emotionally. But the reality is, behind the scenes right now, I'm looking at the lens of a camera. This took over a year for me to get comfortable with. I was not passionate talking to a camera. It was hard to get myself into the state and practice where it's like talking to the camera is like having a conversation with a friend. And I really struggled with it for a long time. I'm almost 2 years into my YouTube channel now and just starting to get used to it. Still not something that I'm necessarily passionate about, but what I am passionate about is the spirit of the message and knowing that you will watch this and this will have an impact for you, right? And so when I think about some of my franchise businesses as well, there were so many aspects to it that I just was not passionate about, right? But what I was passionate about was our product or service and the impact it had on people, and passionate about creating multiple streams of income. So for you, where are you lying to yourself? And then it's all interconnected. It all connects to itself, where like you think, oh, I've got to feel passionate about my business. And then you start something and then you start getting confused or fearful or overwhelmed, right? Number one, which we talked about. And then you're like, well, I don't feel passionate about this because I feel confused and stressed out. And then you procrastinate. And then it causes you to numb out because you have this stress that you're coping with, and it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy and cycle. So I really hope that this video provided some value for you, because these are really important points that were life-changing for me. Learning how to give these things up allowed me to finally start to break through in my businesses, and then finally let go of the corporate job and start to create the life that I really wanted. So again, if you like this video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you can be notified every time I post videos like this. Drop me a comment and tell me, what are you gonna give up? Like, what are you committed to give up in order for you to achieve the goals that you want to achieve? Make sure to go download my 7-step blueprint to business profits in 60 days. The link is in the description below, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.